So the goal of this, what I'm trying to do here in this video is I'm trying to show how to do Shopify theme development, kind of live theme development. It's a pretty cool system. Also setting up Codex / ChatGPT work to do that under instruction. I am here in the Aussie Coffee Shopify backend, and if I click on online store down here, you'll see that there are two themes. There's the production theme, and then there's this Aussie Coffee dev. These are actually lined up with GitHub, so I'm going to open GitHub, and I want resource / AC web. Might sign in. So signing in as me will do. Okay, so we have a Aussie Coffee web. Actually, this is the wrong one. I want Aussie Coffee theme. It's the new one. Aussie Coffee theme. Yes. Right. So if you look over here in the themes in Shopify, you can see main and dev. And if I come over to the themes in GitHub, I can see main and dev. What I want to do is set up a branch for local development. And so just so it's pretty clear, because what's going to be happening is there's going to be a lot of pretty active theming going on that's going to be being pushed if my bro is going to be using ChatGPT to do the theming. Potentially there's going to be a lot of work. So we've had a discussion about how that work's gonna go, and I'm quite happy to say that we've decided not to use the main branch. For that, we're going to set it up into a pre-production branch, and what's going to happen is whenever my brother is ready to do a deployment, he's going to let me know, and I'm going to do the deployment, which is just going to be merging to main. I've got to have a dev, non-production dev branch here, but I'm actually going to create a branch that is very specific to the work here. So I'm jumping into the branches, view, create a branch. So we'll just call it Dan Local. I've used this branch name before. And I trust that if Gumnut can't hear me, he would let me know. So I've got this new branch, and then over here, what Shopify lets you connect to one GitHub repo, and then you could import a zip file of a random theme, but I want to connect from GitHub, right? I want to have all mine connected, but technically I could download like Horizon from the Shopify, thanks Bryn, from the Shopify GitHub, and I could import a Shopify theme or something like Horizon or something, or some third-party theme by uploading a zip file. But actually what I want is to connect from GitHub, so we can kind of see that connection here. And so that it can be kind of previewed, because if you notice here with the dev theme, if you drop this, if you ... here, there's this preview button. So I can actually click that preview, and what it'll do is open up the site on that branch. So you can see this is actually very different to if I private window, and if I go to the production side at the moment, there's the production side at the moment, and you'll notice that this theme is very different, and that's because the dev branch is out of date. So, but you can see it on the bottom, it does say Aussie Coffee Dev, and that this bottom bar is an indication in Shopify that you are working in a pre-production branch. Typically, if you're using a vendor in Shopify, a vendor will be sending links to these pre-production branches and kind of going, hey, there's a new feature that we've developed. Here's the preview link. And so I can access the preview, or I can copy the link, or I can even edit the theme if I've got permission, by going into the Shopify backend to edit the theme. So what we want to do is we're going to create another branch so that we can have another one of these effectively. But let's do a merge of main back to dev so that we can see that theme updating and sort of see how quickly that happens. So new pull request, obviously you're not usually going from main to dev, you're going from dev to main. But in this modern age, we're all in a race to the finish line. So I'm not quite sure why this is a very slow process. I don't know if there's something going on with my internet, but that's taking a while. Let's blame GitHub. I mean, I don't think it's not like a lot of code's changed. I think this is a GitHub problem. I'm just gonna do. What else do I need to have open? So the other thing, something that we have to sort of reckon with when we're talking about Shopify theming and the interaction between apps and theming is that apps can affect this theme directly, and also an editor can affect the theme directly. So say if I'm here and I'm looking at my dev set theme and I click edit theme here, if I go ahead and make a change, not just by adding blocks into this theme here, but either adding blocks or by clicking on this, clicking on this ... and editing code, right? These changes will push to GitHub straight away. So what can happen is, my experience is that, I'll give you a really good example, is that there's an app called Pagefly. Pagefly will create liquid files in your Shopify theme, kind of on the fly. And so you'll be working on some feature and then you'll be pushing or creating a merge request, and then suddenly you can't push because there's actually upstream changes. Where the upstream changes come from? Pagefly has created some liquid files and some layout files. So if I went into, so it's sort of interesting in that it's very, it kind of acts pretty magically, but if you're familiar with Git and you're familiar with the idea of getting a merge conflict or a pull, you can't pull because there's upstream changes. This happens a lot. So it's kind of can be a little bit of friction if you're dealing with a customer who's used to working through these UI tools. And so say they're working on they might directly go in and fix one of these liquid files or change one of these liquid files, or use an app to create a landing page. And then those changes are upstream of you. They won't necessarily see the difference. They don't never see the issues with merge requests, because the Shopify has its own kind of Git repository. Must be somewhere underneath the hood that Shopify has its own Git repository, and that kind of wins. That kind of gets the changes, and so you're just you can't merge because you got to merge main back to dev, and then then you can do your pull request. So we've got this pull request. We're doing a new pull request that was still loading. Let's try that again. What's going on here? Maybe I'll do this locally. Okay, let's grab a new terminal session. And where do we want to be? We want to be in Aussie Coffee / what do we have? AC theme. So I'll get checkout dev, get branch main, get checkout. How do you do this again? Checkout B from origin dev called dev, or is it the other way around? No, let's try the other way around. I never remember this. Oops. Checkout B dev. Git fetch. Maybe I didn't have the dev branch. Let's have a look. There's our dev branch. So we're going to check out, we've got dev now, and let's do the same with Dan local, just so we've got that locally. Okay, oops. Let's try that again. Dan local. And git brd local. Let's get rid of that one. Okay, so I've got my branches. There's my branches, Dan local, dev, and main. Git checkout dev. Actually, git checkout main, and just did I pull the latest changes from main? Let's just do that. In fact, why don't I do a sneaky little change on main, and we'll just see that change come through. So I'm in dev here. I don't want to be in dev. I want to go back. So let's exit out of the theme editor. Edit the main theme. I just want to edit something kind of inconsequential here on the main theme. So I'll just jump into the code. Regarding Git, I see the comment regarding GitHub. Yeah, I think that was a GitHub issue. It's pretty ordinary. So I'm in. I'm just going to grab a random block here, maybe add something here, and save it. And provided it does pick up if you've done. If I do a syntax error, for example, it will not let me save. So let's say if I try doing this and I hit save, it's not happy with that, and then do it again, then hit save. And then what you'll see is that if I do a git pull, that will be pretty immediate. So there's that change come through. So for a lot of this stuff you're doing with Shopify, your changes are pretty immediate. And my first experience with Shopify was a little bit like, what? Because it was sort of felt like the vendors that we were using for the customer that I was working with. I wasn't originally working with this customer for Shopify, and the vendor was doing all these changes. And I was kind of like, wow, it's like YOLOing in production. So sort of this video is a bit about, let's not YOLO in production. Let's do this in a nice way and then hook it up to ChatGPT. So I'll check out dev. I'll do a git checkout dev. I'll do a merge from main to dev. I doubt that I've got anything in dev branch, just from memory. Okay, so now dev's up to date, and what I promised was we would actually go and have a quick look at dev and see it update. So that's how fast it will update. It's an example of an aspect of Shopify that I find to be quite good, quite impressive in terms of how their infrastructure works. So now what we want to do is set up a new branch here with for the Dan local. So we want him to be able to see these changes, and he can share links and so forth when he's ready to do merges. So let's add a new theme somewhere. Import, connect from GitHub. Now, even though it offers you the choice of remote repositories, pretty sure from memory the one you're using is the one it'll let you use. So I've got another client in there that comes up through my user, and you see, so AC theme, so it's going to want to branch from this same theme. I can't remember, 99% sure that that's the case, that there's some limitation, you can't connect multiple Git repositories to your Shopify theme. So you can see here I've got my new branch that I haven't connected yet. I hit connect, and we're just going to let that run for a bit. That's going to essentially create a new draft theme for us. And it's doing the import process now. Now, the next thing we want is we want to get a code editor going, because, that's what we do still a bit. as developers. Like, what are we even? So what am I looking at here? I'm looking at the wrong project. I'm on a new window. And you'll notice that in some of these videos that I do, I kind of like to keep use Z for my code. I like to look, see the code, touch the code, feel the code. So I've got down here, I don't think I have the project set up yet. So I'm going to open a local folder, and that is going to be inside, it's going to be inside here and here and okay, so there's my thing. Trust and continue. So what we sort of want to do here is we want to have an agents file, and you can see I've started one here, and we want to make sure that the agents file is telling Dan's Codex and our Codex how we want it to work. So we're just going to step through this file and just look at what's currently here and maybe make some decisions about what we want to add. But this is kind of pretty key. So what is this? It's a Shopify theme. So what I do is, looks like this is the upstream of this is a Shopify theme called Horizon, and as it goes on, it's going to diverge. But in theory, at the moment, I've got a remote to Horizon theme. I could fetch and I could merge upstream changes from the Horizon theme. That will become potentially, like at some stage, potentially conflicts would occur, and it's not as easy to kind of merge the upstream. But at the moment, what I tried to do was to set up as a kind of vanilla as possible theme using Horizon. To try and, there's no real need. We're building a cafe website. There's not going to be fantastic need to have a custom Shopify theme. We want to take advantage of the stuff that a best practice, quote unquote, Shopify theme would offer us. So that's that. But obviously I'd be the one who would be reviewing the upstream changes from the Horizon repo. So making distinctions and decisions on what I wanted to merge back. Right. And so the practice I tend to get into these days is like, if I'm making a developer MD or a README and saying, hey, developers, this is how I want you to work, I usually tell the developer to go and read the agent's MD, or vice versa. Or tell the agent to go and read the developer MD or whatever. So for even if if there's a developer working on this and I want them, I'm expecting developers these days to read this file. Kind of a modern quirk, but you sort of don't want to repeat yourself. But yeah, so let's go through this as if we're also developers is the short way to say that. So what is this? It's a Shopify theme for Aussie Coffee. It's based on upstream Horizon, and there should be a remote called upstream pointing there. Let's just check if that is true. So let's just make some space here. Git remote, there's an upstream, git remote show upstream. And I'm not going to worry about looking at that, but yeah, there it is. There's our upstream. So the environments are dev, staging for proposed changes. And then what we're going to do is, so staging for pre-production changes. Okay. And there's a couple of links there. There's the link to the editor in Shopify. We've got main, we've got the branch production mirrors to da-da-da-da-da. And then we will add one for Dan local. Oh, look, M dashes. Let's use the M dash. So clearly I got a LLM to help me with this. So this branch is used by Dan Hobbs to develop the theme using LLM support. It will generally be stacked with changes, and PRs should be any PR. So this is where we want to make a big decision. What are we going to PR to? Any PRs should be opened against. So it really is a bit of a decision here, because it's something that we can forget. We can kind of, like, let's say I want to have his Codex opening PRs against main. Sure, but then what if I'm developing like a big feature in dev and actually I wanted him to open it against dev, like, and then vice versa if he opens it against dev, and sometimes like there's just not that much important going on and dev gets stale. So I'm gonna go main by default, and the idea would be that I would see the PR, it's open against main, I'll know if there's stuff in dev or whatever that needs to happen or needs to be checked. And I think this is kind of creating like a minimum feature branching workflow of that is kind of practical. Realistic is another way to say it. So strategy. So strategy LLM. So this is an LLM reading this, right? By default, a developer should have more understanding of the context. So we're thinking in the terms of the LLM that's reading this. So use the Dan local branch as the staging area for proposed changes. Then merge, then open PRs against main, right, to ship. The Shopify theme editor is the source of truth for any visual config tweak. Now, when I first set this up, I was more expecting, I was using MCP, Shopify MCP, that would in theory edit against the Shopify theme. And look, the simplest way to think about that is like, what if the LM had access to computer use, could use a browser, could open up the Shopify theme, added blocks, whatever, into there. And I think, and I just don't know how, I kind of think that it's probably just kind of overthinking it. What I've noticed is that LLMs are using, if they're hooked up to the Shopify MCP and stuff like that, they generally do a pretty good job of doing the theme properly. So what does doing the theme properly mean? Like, the proper theme has a theme properly has things like setting up the sections and things with JSON, and then these sections will point to like these templates in JSON will point to sections in Liquid, and it'll all be broken down nicely so that, and even to the point where, like in Shopify, sections can have settings. So if you look down the bottom of this, let's look at the bottom of this carousel, quite long. So this is going to come from Horizon. So there's a carousel. Here's the Liquid that renders the carousel. Here's all the divs. And then below that is this massive schema of settings. And I don't hate this. I think it's kind of fine. I think it's, like, the worst thing about the settings is when they just become too much and you don't use them. So there can be over abstraction. So, like who cares about these details if an editor's not going to edit them all the time? Maybe it's worth just not exposing those settings, and just because it does create a lot of abstraction if you're in some cases with all these settings that are as part of the section Liquid. But yeah, the point I was making is that generally the LMs do a good job of knowing how to interact with these files and do these files. So I kind of think the Shopify theme editor is a source of truth. I don't think this is really useful, and I think I will. He's the source of truth for upstream changes. Okay, so we're sort of saying to the LM there could be changes upstream that come down. So, be prepared to pull those changes back into Git so that the repo and the live theme don't drift. Now, you see here there's a reference to a Shopify CLI command, which we need to get set up in a sec. But and so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go git pull or Shopify theme pull. So Shopify theme pull essentially bypasses Git, pulls the latest code from Shopify infrastructure. And so you can do Shopify theme push, theme pull. So there could be people working with Shopify who don't even sort of never set up a Git repository, right? They work locally and they push and pull the theme, and that is fine. So we sort of have to be, so we just want to be mindful of that, and in some cases, if there's a syntax error or something in Git, the synchronization doesn't work that good. So we'll just keep this a bit loose. But so the repo and the live theme don't drift is really the goal. Keep the theme structure intact so upstream horizon merges stay clean. Okay, so we don't really want big restructures of the code, and avoid editing files that would conflict with upstream updates unless required. Blah 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 blah. Default to making changes on the live dev theme. So this is an important note because yes, there may be situations where an MCP will be leaning things towards doing admin GraphQL changes, and we're not really against that. But from my experience, most things should be doable in the code. I can't really think of anything where I've had to do changes in the theme over in the UI that I couldn't do in the code. So my gut feeling says I'm going to remove this. I'm just going to remove this. Agent instructions. So what else do I want to tell I'm going to leave this for now. It's kind of just reviewed it. And the next step, oh no, actually, so local tools. Local tools. So if I come back to here, I'm gonna do a git checkout and local. So if I come back to here and I go, what do I want to do? I want to do, so which Shopify? What is Shopify? So we've got Shopify sitting there in, it's been installed to run in on Node. I don't know what the correct terminology of that is. On Node, in Node, part of Node. I've installed it. So it's been installed and there it is. I wish I could explain that in a better way, but it's, yeah. So there's a Shopify CLI, sure. I've got it on my path, and if we type Shopify version, we should get something going here. There's our Shopify version. There's a few important commands. If I do Shopify list, no, Shopify, if I type Shopify, there you go. The commands that we're interested in are theme, I think mainly just the theme commands. Okay, here. So if I type Shopify theme like that, I get a few things. There's theme check is one of the commands that's important. And I would say theme dev is the other one. Theme push and pull shouldn't necessarily be relevant to us because we're kind of going to go by a Git, so we don't really want it to do that. And it should be working on its own branch that sits separate. No one's editing down local theme in Shopify. And they're the main two commands that we're interested in, probably theme preview as well. So let's just list these commands to note. Local tools, you should have Shopify CLI tool locally. These are the main commands you'll use. So one, we've got Shopify theme check. Shopify theme. If you watch me typing for too long, it's really going to drive you crazy. Shopify theme dev and Shopify theme preview. So let's just put back ticks around that so it's kind of clear. And preview. So when sharing with others, give to the operator to share with others. And this one will be, use this, run this while editing, while making changes. So the operator can review, and then don't push code which doesn't pass the tests, which doesn't pass the checks. Okay. All right, so this should give us enough to get going. So let's jump over to, let's just check that, do that Shopify theme dev and just see what that looks like. Shopify theme dev. And essentially this will now live update. So it gives us a preview link. We can grab this preview link and we can jump over to our browser and chuck that in there. Now, so that's actually looking at the wrong site because of my, so that's looking at a different client. So there is something in the settings that I need to check. Quite interestingly, it's like it gave us a preview link on a completely different Shopify site. So I think there's a switch we've got to pass to send the right site to it. I'm going to jump over to my ChatGPT. Just so I don't sort of disrupt this video too much. Shopify, CLI, Shopify theme dev is showing the wrong site. How do I pass the site to this command? So it's going to be something like this path store. So I want, so it's what about this admin path? So Shopify theme dev, and then we want the store to be, there we go. So let's see if we can get that to work. It looks like I don't have access to, I see, I think I need to author someone else. Let's see if I can do that. Let's log out. Let's log in. I'm just doing this off screen, so I'm just on another browser. I'm just logging in to Shopify with my personal email. Doing the dance. All right, there we go. So So the problem there was, yes, I was like logged in to Shopify CLI as a different email address that was connected to a different client. Shopify theme dev. Yeah, the trials of streaming. Okay, there is our preview. So when we're previewing the site, let's see, that doesn't look very happy. Back to Aussie Coffee. Okay, so I'm not quite sure what that initial page was, but here's the site, and you can see down the bottom, development, Feverbroke is the name of my laptop, and we're in a preview mode. So if I am editing the site, if I go to something that means something, let's go to sections, and we'll go to, we need like a main template, main page. Not sure if that's going to do it. Blog. Yes, we've got some blog posts. So if I come down here and I just stick something really garish in there, hello world. And then over here, I click on a blog post. So at some point, I should get hello world to show up here. And so you can see that it has synced it. So basically what the dev is doing is pushing that template to the Shopify infrastructure so that sooner or later I should get the change. Now I'm just wondering if that's using the right template, if I've edited the right template. It should be that template. It might be this one. That already looks like it's like, you know, gone a little bit like duplicated for no reason, 2 templates. All right, there's my hello world. So this is what the experience should be for Dan in terms of the updates. So we're looking at that. So we're looking at this page. Let's remove this. Let's just remove this one as well. Now let's jump over to chat and let's try creating a project ourselves. So jump into ChatGPT. Where are you? Yes, here we are. Okay, so I'm going to just delete this project so I can do it all again. Okay, so I'm sitting in ChatGPT, and what I want to do is I want to create a project that points to that code base, and I want to start using ChatGPT to change my project. So, so I've got my projects here. I hit plus. It's going to be a local project. Hit next, and this is you see up here chat and work. So this is like the Codex merged into ChatGPT, which is something they've been doing for a bit. So let's call it Aussie Coffee Shopify source folders. So we want to add the Aussie Coffee theme and then create project. Okay, so change. So now we can just sort of go, we should be in the project. Now I have noticed that sometimes it slips and it turns it into a chat and it's not in the project context. So let's do something really, really simple. And let's just say, have you got access to the Shopify dev CLI? And what I'll do is I won't confuse it. I'll jump out of that one. Okay. Yep, and so it's looks like it's successfully started in the context of the project. Yep, cool. Right, so now hypothetical. So we're pretty much done here. The hypothetical is let's do something. Let's change all the fonts on the site to red and put a flashing marquee across the top that says hello world. Now, I've got a question. You are in local, or was that the dev site running? So when I was looking at the preview here, it's what happens is that the Shopify dev commands pretty much pushes to a custom theme. It synchronizes all the files to Shopify infrastructure, and then I'm looking at the production website. I'm looking at the live website. It's exactly the same content, and it's skinned with a different theme. So it's pretty snazzy. Like, it basically just skins your production website. If you wanted to have pre-production content, you'd have a completely different Shopify site. You'd create a dev site and you could use that and put custom content in. And the thing that if you come from a world where all of you're used to deploying things via dev staging prod, so a really controlled pipeline, and like I'm really familiar with that in in professional Drupal projects. Then we've had the ability to have a pre-production website that is synced 100% to production, that we can put dev code on and preview it, dev branches, and preview them, feature branches. When I came into the Shopify space, it just looked hectic, because what I could see is that there was no way to synchronize a pre-production website so that you could test new features and code. You had to do a lot of work to change a lot of things in order to create a site that was the same. And even then, you couldn't get the same UUID for all of your content or products. So you were sort of faking it out for a lot of stuff anyway. And I couldn't really understand this working with vendors for a while, because it just seemed like they were YOLOing into production. And when I realized this is what they do. They have a development branch. They do all the things they want on that development branch. They send the client a preview link, and the preview link is this, and it shows some rando code branch and how that will look with production. The client reviews, and then once it's approved, they merge. And even to the point where you can do that in the UI and the Git. Like, you can get the client to merge. So just to answer that question, fast too. It is very fast. So it's one of the half dozen reasons why I think that the Shopify infrastructure is really solid. Because I don't know, like, I can't really think of anything that can go wrong. I suppose if you're looking at the skin, it's not like it's the back end UI, it's just the skin. So I could put, like, if I put an order through or something like that, there's things that I could do to ruin my production content if I was really aggressive with what my liquid files were doing. But you generally don't post to, your theme doesn't post anything. Shopify kind of protects, like the checkout process, for example, the cart process, you're posting to Shopify endpoints that are very controlled. So you're not really handling any of that. So it's not like you can accidentally deploy theme code that would mangle up your products because it saved them badly, because you don't do that in your theme. And over time, Shopify, I think, have slowly isolated the theme, because you're seeing more and more that, like, user profiles now, they're all under Shopify control. They're called the new customer accounts experience, where it used to be that you'd create liquid files to edit your customers and so forth, and now they get flung into a completely controlled Shopify UI experience, UX experience. And so the theme more and more and more is just the display layer, and I think for the better. Okay, so I was going to, so I'm turning this syncing off, and then I'm coming over to Codex. And so I want to say change all the fonts on the site to red, and put a flashing mark here across the top that says hello world. And I want to live preview it, please. And look, that's pretty technical. like, I'm going to get my brother to watch this and just to get the sense of what's going on. But in theory, whenever I do a session with Codex, in theory, it's going to put it into live preview in the background and give me a URL that I can look at. So I'll need the URL from you. Right. So let's just try and be as naive as possible and not too specific about what we're asking, and we'll see what happens. Okay, so that's fine. Sees the agent's MD changes. Hasn't given me a preview. Okay, so it's doing the checking. So I mean, it's not telling me that it's reading agent's text, but it should have. Like, so obviously that's what we want. We want it to do a theme check. It's not going to give us a broken URL. Okay, so preview is blocked, so we're going to allow this CLI command. I suppose worth, pondering what you're doing to protect things here. You can if it's going to run the CLI, it can push things with the CLI, so that's something to be aware of. Can it push to the Shopify production site, for example? I can't tell you that exactly. If you could protect your main branch in GitHub. So I suppose the important thing is to protect, you're using GitHub as your code, as your up-to-date code. And I'm just going to let this go for a little bit just to see if it resolves. But I feel like it might be looking at the preview link and trying to review the preview link. I don't know. Yeah, so that's the link we want. And there's our changes. So the next step obviously would wrap up that session, and it would push to the down local branch, and then he would let me know that he's got some changes, and if I wanted to, I can go and look at the preview. He could send me the preview, but by using this copy link, make my life easier, but not necessarily necessary really. So that's basically the stream today. Just going through that. Feel free to sort of drop any questions in the comments if you wanted any further content about Shopify in any way. Be happy to do more content about Shopify. Other than that, my name's Simon. My company's Free Source. Thank you very much for watching.